7 words and phrases popularized by presidents. As author Paul Dickson notes in his book, Words from the White House, Words and Phrases Coined or Popularized by America's Presidents, the country's chief executives have shaped not only history, but our popular lexicon as well. Check out everyday words and phrases from Dickson's book that you may be surprised to learn were propelled into common usage by America's commanders-in-chief. Number 1. Administration. George Washington. As the first U.S. president, George Washington not only defined the role of the chief executive, he also coined certain words to explain elements of the presidency, such as the commander-in-chief's period of time in office, which he called an administration. Washington introduced the new use of the word in his farewell address in 1796 when he wrote, "In reviewing the incidents of my administration, I am unconscious of intentional error." The Oxford English Dictionary credits Washington with the first evidence of the usage of 32 words, including average and indoors. As Dickson notes, however, that doesn't mean the first president coined the terms, only that his writings contain the earliest recorded instances of them, in part because his papers were among the few to survive from the 1700s. Number 2. First Lady. Zachary Taylor. In the early decades of the United States, the president's wife was commonly referred to as the presidentress, quite a mouthful. Not until Zachary Taylor eulogized Dolly Madison in 1849 did that begin to change. She will never be forgotten because she was truly our first lady for a half century, the 12th president wrote of the widow of the 4th president. The title eventually grew in usage to encompass all presidential wives. Number 3. Founding Fathers. Warren G. Harding. Today's common collective reference to the Revolutionary era statesmen who drafted the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution had an unlikely start in a 1918 speech given by then Ohio Senator Warren G. Harding to the sons and daughters of the Revolution, in which he said, "It is good to meet and drink at the fountains of wisdom inherited from the founding fathers of the Republic." Harding, who had a penchant for alliteration, wielded the term again during his 1920 presidential campaign, and it soon supplanted the usage of framers to describe America's revolutionary leaders, which Dickson says changed the way we now view them. The use of framers connotes a much more diverse group, while founding fathers sounds like they were this group of men walking in lockstep. And of course the reality is they had huge disagreements on voting, slavery, and other issues. Number 4. Iffy. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Although Franklin D. Roosevelt was a patrician with a very high-class way of speaking, Dickson notes that he wasn't afraid to include slang in his linguistic arsenal, such as the use of the word iffy to describe uncertainties or Supreme Court decisions with which he disagreed. Roosevelt commonly swatted away hypothetical queries from reporters at press conferences by saying, "That's an iffy question." Number 5. Lunatic Fringe. Theodore Roosevelt. Dickson says that Theodore Roosevelt, whose contributions to the popular lexicon included bully pulpit, muckraker, loose cannon, and pack rat, was the most masterful president at coining new phrases. So many of his constructions are still around and still have his imprint on them. He just seems to have been the most colorful presidential contributor to the language, Dickson says. After leaving the White House, Roosevelt added to his linguistic legacy when, in his review of the avant-garde Armory Show in 1913, the unimpressed former president wrote, "The lunatic fringe was fully in evidence, especially in the rooms devoted to the Cubists and the Futurists, or Near-Impressionists." The term soon crossed over from the art world to the political arena to characterize those with beliefs well outside the mainstream. Number 6. Squatter. James Madison. In a 1788 letter to Washington, James Madison delineated several factions who might be opposed to the newly drafted U.S. Constitution, including a group of representatives from Maine who occupied land owned by others and to which they had no legal title. Many of them and their constituents are only squatters upon other people's land, and they are afraid of being brought to account, wrote Madison in the first recorded instance of the word squatter. Number 7. Sugarcoat. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was capable of employing both soaring oratory and plain-spoken language. In a July 4, 1861 message to Congress, Lincoln used the latter to take aim at secessionists who claimed their actions were constitutional. With rebellion thus sugar-coated, they have been drugging the public mind of their section for more than 30 years, and until at length they have brought many good men to a willingness to take up arms against the government. The official government printer objected to Lincoln that the use of sugar-coated was beneath the linguistic dignity of the presidency. But the great emancipator stood firm and reportedly said, "The time will never come in this country when the people won't know exactly what sugar-coated means."